We're all about facts, not fear, and providing information to keep you and your loved ones safe. Joining us now is Dr. Payal Kohli, joining us live. Doc, how's it going?
It's going great, Jeff. How are you doing? Happy Monday.
I like the DBL hat you're sporting in the background there, and as always, you look beautiful today.
Well, I'm glad you noticed. I just got it this weekend from Bert, so I'm officially part of the DBL family now.
Absolutely. All right, Doctor, let's get into this. Several states are taking the first steps to reopening. There's Oklahoma, Georgia, and obviously right here in Colorado, to name a few. Does this mean it's safe to go back to salons and restaurants? This is the question on everybody's mind right now.
This is a great question, Jeff, and particularly as we're talking about the isolation fatigue really setting in, I think a lot of people are really anxious to get out there, myself included. I'm dying to get my hair colored and cut. But I have to emphasize, and I'm with Lindsay on this one, this is not the time to go to closed indoor spaces, to do things that are not essential, to do recreation, because we really are going to see a huge surge if that happens. And a new study came out of Wuhan, China, just this morning that suggested, just like we saw last week with the restaurant study, that the spread in closed, indoor, crowded spaces like shopping centers, restaurants is extremely fast. So if you're having that isolation fatigue is getting to you, I would recommend going out for a bike ride, like Lindsay said, get out of the house, get exercise, but make sure you wear that mask when you do that, because the more people that don't wear the mask, the longer we're going to keep having to do this. So stay away from those elective things, but try to get outside, get some exercise so that you can keep continuing that social distancing.
Great tip, Doc. Let's get to a few viewer questions. Carrie says she thinks she had the flu last December, but her symptoms also match coronavirus symptoms. Should Carrie buy an antibody test?
So, Carrie, if I was you, I would buy the antibody test. And the reason is because we just recently learned that the first case of the coronavirus death in the United States actually occurred earlier than we thought, February 6th. So if you dial back from that, when the person likely got infected, that might have been 4 to 5 weeks before, which takes us into late December, early January. So it is possible that you could have had the coronavirus, and therefore it's worth investing in that test to try to see what that means for you and for your future.
Let's get to this next one, because it's actually a question that I don't want to ask you personally, but Molly asked it first. She wants to know, if I already tested positive for COVID-19 and recovered, is it possible for me to get it again? I think a lot of people are asking this question right now, Doc.
Yeah, Miley and Jeff, this is the million-dollar question, and the short answer is we just don't know. But the long answer is that we think probably not, at least in the short term, because the immunity is a really complex phenomena. So testing positive for the antibody does not equate immunity. Immunity is actually a function of many factors, including your genetics, possibly how much virus you were exposed to, possibly even how sick you got. So the people who got sicker could potentially have a higher level of immunity than those who didn't. So at this time, the World Health Organization actually over the weekend issued a warning that do not assume that having the antibody means that you're immune to the infection. But what we think in a practical sense is that most likely in the short term, you are immune to the infection. Now, we do know that 5% of people don't mount an antibody response at all, even after they get infected. And we do know with other coronaviruses that immunity can start to go down over time. So play it safe, keep socially distancing, but we think in the short term, you probably at least have some degree of immunity.
That's great to know, but you'll keep us informed on when it becomes 100%. Doc, before we go, it's time for Dr. Kohli's silver lining. And earlier we talked about Brad Pitt playing Dr. Fauci on SNL. That's actually what your silver lining is about today. Is that right?
It is, Jeff, and you know, I have to take what Al said very seriously, because he made a good point that this should not be made light of. But I also think that Brad Pitt, who's my favorite actor, and Dr. Fauci, who's my favorite physician, I mean, they did a really nice job of showing that science is so important when it comes to this pandemic. So instead of being guided by misinformation, you know, misconceptions or fear, science really trumps everything else. And I think they just did a nice job of putting it together. And I agree with you. My favorite part was at the end where he got personal and thanked Dr. Fauci for his service, as well as the frontline healthcare workers. So I thought that it was just a beautiful way to remind everybody to focus on the facts, to laugh a little, and to know that we all will get through this.
And doctor, since you are a part of the team now, who would you want to play? What celebrity would you want have them play you to fill in on this show?
So I was torn between Amal Clooney or Priyanka Chopra, but then one of the viewers actually wrote in a few weeks ago and said maybe Bethany Frankel. So maybe you can be the tiebreaker. Which one do you think?
I'm liking Priyanka Chopra. I think I'm going to go with that one.
Okay.
All right, Doc.
That sounds good to me. She was Miss World, so.
Hey, it's not a bad choice. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Kohli. Of course, Dr. Kohli will return tomorrow, and if she doesn't, maybe Priyanka will come by. So if you have questions about coronavirus you want answered by Dr. Kohli, write us on social media. You can also email info@dailyblastlive.com. Remember, no panic, just preventions and precautions. Thanks again, Doc. We'll see you tomorrow.